Assalamu alaikum. You're watching Views and News and I'm Faisal Rehman, live from our Islamabad studios. Today, we have a very interesting topic. Actually, we'll be talking about the overall year 2020's economic progress. Look at the screen. It says that Pak-China Free Trade Agreement 2 came into effect. The second phase of the Free Trade Agreement came into force, which would allow Pakistani manufacturers and traders to export around 330 new products to the Chinese market with zero duties. Then it says that Pakistan's GSP plus status kept in place. The European Union decided to extend the GSP plus facility for Pakistan for another 2 years. The status granted Pakistan duty-free access to European Union markets in 91% tariff lines. It further adds that oil prices turned negative for the first time. US crude oil futures collapsed below $0 for the first time in history amid a coronavirus-induced supply glut. Pakistan's auto industry endured the worst month for car sales in April and recorded zero sales. Moving on, Pakistan retained MSCI EM status. Pakistan successfully kept its May 2017 upgraded status in the global MSCI Emerging Market Index and stayed up of the threat to being downgraded to the Frontier Index in a semi-annual review. Number 5, ML1 rail project got final approval. Now that is going to be very interesting. The Executive Committee of the National Economic Council approved the main line 1 railway project of the CPEC worth $6.8 billion, paving the way for loan negotiations with Beijing, which would finance 90% of the cost. Number 6, government's IPPs reached accord to cut energy cost. Pakistan signed a new agreement with independent power producers to reduce cost of electricity generation and slash circular debt in the power sector. Now that's been an amazing development, I would say. Number 7, Pakistan won stay in Remittances case. World Bank's International Center for Settlement of Investment Disputes granted a stay on enforcement of a massive penalty of $6 billion imposed on Pakistan for its decision to deny a mining lease for the Remittances project to Australia's Tetlian Copper Company. Number 8, Pakistan remained on FATF grey list. The Financial Action Task Force gave yet another lifeline to Pakistan and decided to keep the country in its grey list for the 4 more months, while acknowledging the political commitment to ending deficiencies in the country's anti-terror financing regime. The next review would take place in February 2021. Now, number 9, Pakistan secured around $1 billion debt relief. Pakistan secured roughly $980 million worth of debt freeze deals with members of the G20 club of richest countries. Number 10, fixed tax regime extended. Mr. Imran Khan extends fixed tax regime for the construction sector till December 31st, 2021, means another 1 year. Number 11, current account 5-month surplus streak. Pakistan's fiscal deficit in fiscal year 2019-2020 fell by 78% according to the data from the State Bank of Pakistan. The current account deficit narrowed to 2.966 billion in fiscal year 20 as compared to 13.43 billion in the previous fiscal year. Now that's a great achievement. Number 12, a volatile year for the rupee. At the start of the year, well before the pandemic had kicked in, the US dollar was trading at around 154.64 on January 2nd. Then the virus outbreak, and as of December 28th, the rupee is trading at around 160.3 against the dollar, according to State Bank of Pakistan's data, which means a decline of rupees 5.66 or 3.66% on year to date. Now, pretty interesting, I would say, data. But yet, when we look at the overall economic situation of Pakistan, a couple of very important things. For example, despite the fact that the pandemic was all over the globe, look at the economies which suffered, European Union, USA in particular, so on and so forth. But Pakistan was able to maintain that, and we were lucky enough, and I think a couple of policies really paid well, that we not only were able to in fact stop the economic meltdown, but also did a lot better. Look at the surpluses and all. And then when we talk about the overall situation as far as food scarcity is concerned or similar other things? There was enough supply of food. Yeah, the prices, they did vary and there were a couple of reasons for that, but the food supply was there as well. Plus, not many jobs were lost. A lot of people are still very much having the same number of jobs at the moment. But look at the numbers in United States of America. Unbelievable. So I think Pakistan did quite better. Now let me introduce you to our panelists. We have with us in our studio Shakil Rami Saab, senior economist. Rami Saab, thank you very much, sir, for your time. And we'll also be talking to Kashif Anwar Saab. He is the former Vice President of Lahore Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Thank you very much, sir, for your time as well, Kashif Saab. And we'll also be talking to Ashfaq Yusuf Tola Saab. He's a senior economist based in Karachi, and we'll soon be having him over the telephone. But let me put the first question to you, Rami Saab. I mean, I went through these 13 points and they all made sense. It is not that we are just playing with the numbers or the figures here. This is the reality. I mean, let's start off putting this question to you, that if you look back, last 364 days of this particular year, the year of COVID, putting that in place, how would you rank Pakistan among its neighboring countries and those countries which have some sort of a similar GDP and issues as compared to Pakistan? Your take, Rami Saab.
Thank you, Faisal. I think if we look at the global statistics for the time being, World Bank has predicted 2020 there would be 5.2% shrink in the global economy.
5.2%.
2%. And then UNCTAD, they have came up with a figure. So in the 2020, FDI decreased by 40%. And it is the first time from 2005, so FDI is coming down to the $1 trillion. And they are projecting in the next year it may go down by 5 to 10%.
Further?
Further. That is a horrible picture if you look at investment and on a global economy. In this broader context, when we look at the statistics of the Pakistan, it is an encouraging sign. So we did not went to the meltdown, and we try to manage the stuff. Although in this, one or two things happen. Number one, we have to take more loans, as Pakistan has to offer the relief package around about $2 billion Pakistan had to secure from the World Bank, ADB, Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank. And Asian Infrastructure and Investment Bank is a very interesting case because people don't talk about much about. That is the bank being based in the Beijing, and that is a big partner for.
Is it a Chinese bank?
No, it's a
consortium?
It's a consortium bank.
Okay.
103 members are with that bank.
Okay.
And it encompasses 78% population of the world and 68%.
That's a lot.
And 63% GDP of the world.
63%. Oh,
yes. So
almost two-thirds.
The two-thirds. So these are the members they have of the worth. That is a very big bank. It was an initiative of President Xi Jinping 5 years back. Anyway, so Pakistan is also working with them. If you look at the numbers in this context, picture is quite encouraging. But there are fundamental reasons which we need to discuss. Number one, during the COVID-19, the CPEC related project, they provided 40,000 jobs. 40,000 people were engaged in CPEC related project. If you look at the number, that's been 40,000 families. Then under the CPEC, we two very big projects came in water, hydro water. One is a CPEC, another is a non-CPEC. Around about $1.93 billion investment is coming under that program.
Okay.
So in addition to that, so Pakistan also signed this a few years back, 1 year back, second phase of the FTA. So Pakistan started to exploit on that.
I mean, what is the difference between free trade agreement and free trade agreement second phase?
So the first, it was for a certain period,
okay,
up to the, I think, 2012. And after that, we have to negotiate another FTA.
Okay.
And then you put the question, if you allow me, I can go further.
Please go ahead.
In the first FTA, which we signed in 2006, our preparation was not good to that extent. For example, Pakistan got some relaxation in certain agriculture commodities, in food commodities and livestock commodities. But Pakistan did not study the other FTA of China. For example, China has FTA with ASEAN. So in ASEAN, the commodities where we were paying 5%, 10%, 8%, 12% taxes, ASEAN countries, they have the 0% tax. So Pakistan could not compete there. because of and if the commodities are coming from one country on the 0% and you have paying some tariffs, that means the edge of competition is losing. It was bad on the Pakistani side because we did not study. That is a fundamental thing I always maintain in your program also. If we have to have a FTA with any country, we need to study their market, we need to study their FTAs with different countries, because if you don't and read those, you will not be able to
So
negotiate.
primarily, Ramesab, the kind of engagement as far as trade is concerned, which we earlier had with the Chinese, and I mean, I still remember it was hovering around $16 billion, the bilateral trade, but mostly it was in the favor of the Chinese, you know. So when you look at the trade deficit,
So this is the
that was
problem.
another
I'm
problem,
mentioning, highlighting
so
this.
that issue
We
has been
did
sorted
not-
out in phase 2?
In phase 2, they have given us, and that was not an issue. That was incompetency on our part. Because we, as I explained to you, there are number of commodities they were offering. They did not ask us to don't go for those negotiations. We were satisfied where we got it. So that is the problem. Now, one thing, second thing, in the when we are putting the number of this trade, we also have to keep in mind the CPEC related infrastructure investment, because there are now a lot of machinery was coming there and other parts are coming from there, and it was due to that those our you can say trade deficit was high. And second thing, we wanted to export to China garment, and you know then the garment, China is the #1 exporter of the world.
Absolutely.
And we put in that FTA and China, and then we wanted to export them rice, and then we wanted to export them something commodities like these which we are self-sufficient or exporting at the global level. So in second FTA we try to, and China also very considerated. They
Okay.
also gave us some windows, special windows in the textile sector, in other sector, but unfortunately still we are unable to exploit that window.
All right. Now, Rami Sahab, let me go to Lahore and let me engage Kashif Anwar Sahab. Kashif Sahab, now interesting part is that for the last 5 months or so, we are seeing some sort of a surplus as far as our import and export is concerned. Imports have been reduced, exports have gone up, and this is amazing to hear this word surplus, you know, when it comes together with the word trade. Now, the second important point is remittances, they went up as well. You talk about certain other factors because of the COVID. Still, Pakistan managed very well, I would say. Your take, keeping the COVID issue in place and then looking at the overall performance of the Pakistan economy, sir. Let's start off from there. Kashif Sahab.
As you said, our exports have increased and we have curtailed imports. Yes, the target of the government is to curtail the imports. But we have not just seen that if we are going to curtail the imports, what will happen to our exports? We do not produce any raw materials in our country. We have to import all the raw materials from abroad. Now, what has happened? We are seeing that our exports have increased. From which figure we are comparing our exports? We are comparing our exports from the last month, or we are comparing our exports from the last year. Last year, our exports were $22 billion, and before that, our exports were $24 billion. Last year, we have not increased our exports, we have decreased our exports. Yes, it is true that we have curtailed our imports for $9 billion. But what is the effect? Now we are seeing in the past 5 months we have increased our exports. Yes, we can say is if in my opinion these are extra orders of textiles which we are receiving, and is one of the fact that India and Bangladesh are not fulfilling the orders of textiles, so our exports have increased. But on the other hand, if you see the comparisons of the dollar and rupee in the last 2.5 years, the comparison of rupee and dollar has increased from 120 rupees to 160 rupees. When it was around 120, $1 was equal to 120 rupees. Now it has gone to 160 rupees. We were unable to compete in the international market. What will be the effect now, and what will be the effect in the near future? Uh, I am not very much convinced with this logic that our exports have increased. Our exports have, I don't think If we only talk about the textile sector, yes, we can say that our exports have increased, but overall our exports have not increased, in my personal opinion.
Okay. The
Yes.
second important area is again, I mean, when you talk about exports, that's the key that holds the key. But we have with us Ashwaq Yusuf Tola Saab, senior economist. He is going to join us on the telephone. Assalamu alaikum, Tola Saab.
Walaikum assalam wa rahmatullah.
Thank you so much, sir, for talking to PTV World. Now, sir, if I may put this very straight question to you, that if you have to look back and review year 2020, as far as the economy of Pakistan is concerned, what would be your take on that, sir?
It's Karvi Straight's question, and let me reply you very straightly. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. It was a very topsy-turvy year for the economy, and I think, in my humble view, we have got few pluses and few minuses. I mean, if we round it up, in my humble view, let's start with January. We have got second Pakistan-China FTA agreement, which was a plus sign for us. But as Kashif was saying, that curbing import is really a very bad decision because we are not producing the raw materials. Nonetheless, allowing import too much is also lethal to the economy. So we have to create a balance between two. So this was the first plus. And then again in March 2020, when we was initially hit by this COVID triggered here in Pakistan, we have got a good news of GSP plus retainment. So this was again a good sign. Then again, after keeping so tight in the monetary policy side, we have seen easing out of economy from interest rate perspective, and the interest rate was reduced, or the policy rate was reduced from 13.25 to 7%, maybe gradually. Again, there was a minus news, and which was a misadventure on the part of our policy maker, which was the hot money. And hot money started flowing outflow in the month of March with decrease in policy rate, and this was very, very, very bad for the economy, and it has proved because we have to pay an extra amount of 1,600 billion rupees on account of interest, and which was again an adverse effect on the economy as a whole, because this 1.6 trillion rupees was not merely a government cost alone. Besides that, our industry has to suffer and has to bear additional borrowing and markup, and which has increased inflation as well. Then there was a plus news, but we were unable to avail that, which was the negative of crude oil, and crude oil market was crashed, and we were supposed to hedge those crude oil for the next 2-3 years, but unfortunately, because of activism, we were unable to do it. Then again, let me take to a plus side. Pakistan was successfully kept in the MSCI Morgan Stanley Index. Again, on 18th of May, there was a negative news of Pakistan being downgraded, not downgraded even. We have attained a negative growth after so many years, and which was already signaled by myself in April that we are going for 0.38% negative, which was not endorsed by the government at that time, but after 40 days, they have pronounced that we have a negative growth of 0.4%. Again, the economy suffered because of locust attack in May. In June, again, Pakistan had a bad news of FBR collecting 1,700 billion, lower than the tax target. Again, had bad news. I think when European aviation safety declared PIA a non grata organization and disallowed our passenger planes to go there. When there was a plus news when IPP and government reached to an MOU regarding slashing of the price, but it is yet to be implemented. Now again, Pakistan was again examined in FATF grade list in October 2020. In November 2020, there is a good news. I would not say it is a good news, but most of the people in the country, those who are not aware fully of the fact that we have a current account surplus, which is not a good sign for the growth of economy and for an ongoing economy to process and progress. Last but not the least, in this month we have got again a bad news of Public debt increased by 11 trillion rupees in 2 years, which is the highest ever in the history of Pakistan. So there are pluses, there are minuses, but as a matter of fact, this year was not good for the economy of Pakistan. And from economic perspective, we have faced so many challenges, not because of any COVID issues. COVID, I think, in my humble view, gave certain benefits to Pakistan economy, yet we were unable to capitalize them. On the contrary, our policy rate, high policy rate of 13.2% and high inflation and
for a
high
very long
parity
time.
of
You're right,
dollar
yeah.
rupee was the main reason.
So, all right, I mean, that's a very, very comprehensive answer, sir, but I was told that since you're busy and you have to go somewhere, so we'll let you go, sir. But once again, thank you very much for your time. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Welcome. Now, Ramesh Saab, very interestingly explained. I mean, just tell me this relationship. You know, whenever we see that, well, imports have gone up in terms of machinery or otherwise, or raw materials, means that, you know, the production will take place, would end up multiplying the exports. Is it the right judgment, sir, or it depends on the nature of the imports?
Actually, Faisal, there are two types of imports. You are absolutely right, and friend from the Lahore, Kashif Saab. So, we import raw material, but the very high quality raw material, not commodity material.
Okay.
One thing. Second thing, our import was basically triggered by consumption commodities. So, that is a really bad for any economy. If your imports are too much in the consumption sector, that hurts your economy. Because if you import something as a raw material, that means you will contribute towards job
export.
creation in your country and toward the export. That is a good thing that we need to sustain. But the problem is, either as we were discussing, do we have such industry strength that we can increase so much import of the raw material? That is the question. On one side, we are saying we don't have the very good industry, and other side we are saying only textile industry is contributing. On other side, we are saying so raw material should be import should be given the license. So, for which industry you need the raw material? That is need to be identified where we can make a difference. Second thing, you talked about auto industry. I think that is auto is not industry in Pakistan, that is enterprises. They are not enterprises, you can say the sale agents. What we are doing with auto industry? We are not manufacturing.
We are assembling.
Only we are assembling. So, that means we need to look at that in a very deep, we have to have a very deep analysis.
So, three or four major brands, they have got such a monopoly. Look at the prices and everything, and they do not let the government import or otherwise.
No, but good news is that no, under CPEC and non-CPEC, some industry is manufacturing industry is coming in Pakistan.
Chinese units?
Chinese unit, Malaysian unit.
Okay.
They are coming, and the Chinese unit they are coming, they will bring the good brands, that I assure you, because I know something. So, the good brands are coming in Pakistan. And good thing is that in the next 5 years, 85% manufacturing would be done in Pakistan of the vehicles.
Manufacturing?
The plants which they are bringing, they will ensure, so the 85% manufacturing be done at the plant. It should not be imported everything and just assembling.
Okay.
So, this is the good news we are listening to that. But Faisal, we had a
and definitely that is going to generate a lot of job opportunity.
Job
also.
opportunity, skills. At this point of time, how many vehicle engineers we have?
Hardly, to be very honest, yes.
That is thing also skills. Faisal, but my understanding is that what needed to be discussed, we need performance. Everybody says good or bad. We will have the board example, but we need to focus on few very fundamental things for the business. For example, we talked about ease of doing business ranking has been improved.
So I've been hearing
but,
about this for such a long time. Nothing has happened so far. The one window operation.
I just gave you 3 examples. How many days it takes to get electricity connection? 113 days.
Half a year.
How many days it takes to get a permit to start construction? 125. How many days it takes for the contractor enforcement? 1071 days.
3 years.
And on top of that, look our tax allocations. Industry contributes 19.1% in GDP, but it contributes 70% in the tax revenue of the country.
That's true.
And our service sector, they contribute 61.1% and they only contribute 29.4% in the GDP, in a tax revenue.
Tax revenue.
Faisal, this is a fundamental thing. When you talk out to the business, they want to talk about these things. They are contributing 70%. And in this connection, in this context, if you come some foreign businessman in your country and you offer him some relaxation, definitely your local businessman say, why we are being
Exactly. This has been the bone of contention. I mean,
That's
if you
what
are
I'm
giving them
saying.
that kind of
we need to
yes.
decode such data and need to talk about it.
Are you totally right? I totally agree with you on
So
that.
these
yeah.
are few things I think which need more attention. It should not,
I still remember when Ishaq Dar Saab was the finance minister, there was this very interesting group of people. They were invited from various countries, and the kind of sureties the government was giving that the investment is going to be sort of insured in terms of dollars and so much other offers as compared to the regional countries. And I was thinking that what about the local investor? What about the local businessman? Why can't he be given that kind of an opportunity?
Other thing is,
Because that is going to disturb the overall equilibrium of the system.
other
here.
thing, we don't need just to blind the tax relaxation for everybody. Because as the liberal economists they say, so if there is a tax reduction, there would be trickle down impact. But few days back, there was a study by London School of Economics and King's College London. They analyzed 50 years data of the top 18 economies of the West, and they came to conclusion there is no trickle down effect.
Why do we talk about the trickle down effect all the time? And you know what? I always used to say it as the trickle up effect.
So that's what I'm saying. No, they have analyzed.
Yeah.
So we need to have a wise strategy. We should not be blindly follow anything like
It's
this.
such an interesting topic, what to do and what not to do. Actually, what not to do is more important. Now, coming back to you, Kashif Saab, I think one thing which Imran Khan Saab did brilliantly, which should have been done much before, is about the IPPs, the kind of engagement we earlier had with them, and the kind of prices, and on top of that, the circular debt that always went up. Now, do you think that is going to be something of a prime importance once this issue has been sorted out?
In connection to your this question, I just want to clear my previous statement.
Please.
Mr. Rami said regarding our exports were $22 billion, and around textile sector contributes 11 to 12 billion dollars. Now, I want to clear one thing, that we produce around 7 to 8 million bales, and our local industry require 15 million bales. It means that we have to import the balance of 7 to 8 million bales. This is my one point. Second point, our major imports are of LNG and fuel. Now, related to your second question, if we will produce our local energy, if we will produce energy from water, if we will produce energy from solar, if we will produce energy from wind, then we don't have to import LNG and we don't have to import fuel. Regarding uh, regarding IPPs, yes, it is very important question. It all relates totally with your exports. Your cost of doing business has increased. Your cost of electricity has increased. Your cost of taxes have increased. Until you will not decrease your cost of doing business, Mr. Rame was saying the progress and the ways of doing business, easiness for the business community. It is very important. Our local industry will not grow, our local industry will not improve until the cost of doing business will not decrease. How your exports will increase? When you will decrease the cost of the raw material, when you will decrease the cost of the input. Until your agreement with the IPPs, until you will not reduce the cost of the electricity, your whole economy will be in trouble, your cost of doing business will be in trouble. And Mr. Prime Minister has taken a very wise step. It has, as you have said, that it must have taken earlier, that we have to look at the agreements which previous governments have done, at which rates our previous governments have done these agreements. This I think this is the main flaw here, the previous governments, which agreements they have done, who is answerable? Where our local debt has gone 44,000 billion rupees. The total debt of Pakistan is around, is near to your GDP. Now, the debt which we have taken, our country has taken, have we spent on the industry? Have we spent on on such projects which are producing, which are contributing to their own costs? No. We have infrastructure is very important. I'm pro infrastructure. I'm for underpasses. I'm for overhead bridges. I'm for motorways. I'm for everything. But our concern, our main priority is the industry. Our main priority is to develop the industrial states. If we will develop the industrial states, and ultimately, when you grow, you need that from either internally or externally. You need that. But where we have spent that debt? Who is answerable? Who will answer? Who will question? This action is very important. This must have taken earlier, that at which cost our agreements have done, which losses it has contributed to our economy, and how we will come out of these. G.
All right. Now, Ramisab, another important point. I was just listening to our friend Kashif Anwar, and he's rightly pointed out on a few very important issues. Now, one thing, sir, that is about the remittances, because the government is very proudly saying that the remittances, they have increased significantly. I do understand. And when I had put this question to once to Moeed Yusuf Saab, he said, well, you know, this is the credit goes to the government because of the new policies, and we have been able to cut down the transfers to Hundi and Hawala, and now the proper banking channel is being used. Well, makes a lot of sense, yes, sir. But my question to him was that most likely a lot of people are wrapping up their businesses. Even the new contracts have not been given to them, and a lot of people are moving back, and they are sending their money back as well. And once their bank accounts will be closed, you will have more remittances. But having said that, sir, the problem seems to be much larger, because it's not only for Pakistan that because you have introduced such a system that people are using the banking channels, it increased in Bangladesh, increased in a couple of other countries as well. So that means that, you know, it's maybe they are still following the old structure, but the remittances are increasing too. At some stage, if you end up losing a certain number of jobs, especially from UAE and Saudi Arabia, that is the backbone of our economy, sir. That is going to give us a lot of jerk.
Faisal, I think you answered your question.
You know, this is what I believe in, because, yeah.
So, this is also my question. So, when I talk to them, look, the whole world economy is coming to their knees. You are talking about the Saudi Arabia. How many months they were closed during the COVID-19?
Absolutely, yeah.
If you talk about the Europe or the US.
And on top the oil trade, sir.
So, on the US and all economies, look at their unemployment. So, in this context, I am unable to understand.
For the first time I heard that Saudi Arabia is seeking for a loan.
I cannot understand in this context, when the whole world is losing their jobs and economy, why Pakistani are earning more money? From where Pakistanis are earning more
Brilliant
money?
question, I would say.
So,
how come?
So that means we are a very genius nation. So my answer is also what you has analyzed. I feel so people are coming back. So they are sending back their, not their income, but their savings. And that is give a rise to a very important question. When those people will be coming back to Pakistan, so what we will do with them?
The remittances will go down. They have already gone down. And on top, what about
That
their
is
jobs?
one question. That is one question. So what do we do with those people who are coming back?
You know, CPAC is the only option, because
the
if you are
CPAC
looking for skillful workers.
CPAC is the only option. So what you are doing? On the CPAC, our CPAC authority is doing a lot of work, but their bill is in Parliament.
Yeah.
You are not moving on that.
Still stuck.
But CPAC authority, despite this hurdle, they are doing a lot. Because I am roaming in this circle, I know
You
that.
know, I exactly know what you're talking
So,
about.
so they are doing a lot. If we want to make CPEC a success story, we need to
You
come
need
out.
to have those people.
No, we need to come out some, you can say, error judgments. For example, China has
I'm
signed.
sure General Bajwa is very much aware of this situation.
General Bajwa is on the job,
and you
and
must be giving him great briefings, huh?
I'm working on this concept
Yeah.
for the last 7-8 years.
Uh-huh.
I'm the first time I'm looking at that. The pace of the work is picking up, in the real sense. I'm not criticizing anybody, but I'm telling you the pace of things are moving on. Pakistan need to keep in mind 2 or 3 things. First, China has signed RCEP.
CEP.
CEP.
What is that supposed to mean?
Regional Economic Comprehensive Partnership with ASEAN,
Okay.
plus Australia, plus New Zealand, and one country I think South Korea. That is a big partnership where they are going for the very conducive trade.
It happened about a month and a half ago. I
Half
remember.
ago.
Yeah,
One
yeah.
thing, second thing. Yesterday there was a news. China and European Union they have finalized their agreement on the investment and sustainable development. We need to be. There are a number of people in Pakistan who think like that. If we were backward from the CPEC, so China will be looking for the. No, China has so many avenues, so many avenues. If they are standing with us,
There has to be a reason.
so they are our friends. They tell us we are our own brothers. And as President Xi Jinping, when he came to the Pakistan, he said, Pakistan helped us on those days when we needed the help. We don't forget that period. So for that period, they are standing with us. We are taking it like that. Oh, we are very special. That's why the things are happening. And that is the realization in the CPEC authority, and they're working really hard to convince the people. So I just am putting the fact, if we want to make it, number 1, SAGs. You know why the SAGs were struck? Why no they're getting the work done now? Because there was allocation for the basic infrastructure, for water, roads, for telephone, gas, these things for SAGs. But it was never spent.
Why?
And the last years, the CPEC authority, they took the initiative, they are bringing it to the spend there. So that's why we are looking at that. There are 2 SAGs.
Primarily, if I may ask you this question, because you're working so closely with General Bajwa and all.
Not General Bajwa,
No, no, no,
I'm
but
working
the
on the
team.
issue.
Or on CPEC.
I am not
primarily.
a spokesperson for anybody, but I'm just sharing what are the details.
What I would like to know now is that the reason the CPEC has been handed over to the military to look after the affairs? Forget about the security issue, that is there, but otherwise.
No, sir, that is the wrong.
bring in transparency.
That is the wrong perception. It is
Generally,
handed.
people
that
talk
is
about
wrong
that,
perception.
yeah.
If you go to the CPEC authority, you will find more than 50% from the civil. Executive director is a civil bureaucrat. Number 2 to the Bajwa Sahab, he is a bureaucrat, civil servant. Presently, he is a civil. Number of the problem is that this CPEC is so fancy word. Everybody want to take a credit. If somebody is doing good, they want to snatch the credit. You know, in the last few days, you must be looking at the different newspaper articles. They were talking about the pace of CPEC has gone down.
Yeah.
When you ask them, what is your proof? They said, oh, your politician was telling, so this government is not doing anything on that. And if you talk
So
about
that was the source of information.
So, and that's what I'm telling. So we need to come out of this mentality of credit game. CPEC, we need to keep in mind, China is friend of Pakistan. They are not friend of PTI, PMLN, or army, or any other institution. They are friend of Pakistan.
They need you and you need them.
So-
Simple as that.
So they are friend of Pakistan. So everybody should follow this sentence. What we are doing for the country.
All right. So last quick comment. Let's go to Lahore and let's put this question to Kashif Anwar. Now, Kashif Anwar Saab, because I had these 13 points, but unfortunately we're running out of time. So, but I really want you to comment on this, because since you mentioned about something very important, and that is about the debt to GDP ratio. Primarily now, I remember it used to be hovering around 60%, then 65%, 70%. Now it's almost as huge as the total GDP of Pakistan, sir. I understand that Japanese have a similar system, but for a country like Pakistan, which is a third world country, going through a lot of problems and all, what is that supposed to mean now?
I think we have to boost our industry if we want to gain. Ultimately, GDP is the sum of services and goods. Until you will not go for the industry, your GDP will not improve. As we have mentioned, we have to increase our tax base. How the tax base will increase? until the industry will not increase. As I belong to the traders community and as I belong to the industry community, our concerns are ultimately with that until we are facing a lot of problems. As we were talking about the ease of doing business, uh, uh, we are very much concerned about the ease of doing business. The prime minister and other avenues are saying one window operation, but we are not going through one window operation. We have to face many departments, and until our local industry will not increase, until service sector will not increase, when industry will increase, ultimately we will give jobs. But what is going now? People are losing their jobs, industries are closing, still many sectors are not working, they are closed. You can see the schools, you can see the hotel industry, you can see the restaurant industry. Yes, it was a tough year, but our whole concern, our whole importance, our whole should go for the industry, so we can increase our goods, we can increase our services, and we can save our economy. Please.
All right, thank you so much for your time. Anwar Saab, it was a pleasure having you. Ramesa. So that's all we have for this week, for this month, and for this year. I'll see you, inshallah, in year 2021. Till then, you take good care of yourself. Have a great New Year's. And let's hope and pray that this menace of Corona or COVID-19 goes away in the next year. Look after yourself. Khuda Hafiz.